as being a head coach for communication for James Tusk, I can just tell you a little bit about what I learned pretty recently when it comes to improving the game and the pickup artist community as a whole. So I have an academic background in communication. I have a master of interpersonal communication, and I'm cooperating with a lot of academic faculties when it comes to communication, professors, PhDs, and so on. And one interesting aspect I've seen is what actually impact women in conversations. So, for example, they did a test in University of California, Berkeley College, where they put a lot of men inside a room and they're watching pretty women and ordinary women. And they used this functional MRI. And what they could see was that every time a good looking girl coming up, they can definitely see that all the neurotransmitter was spiking to the roof like crazy. And when they saw an ordinary woman, not much happened actually. So we have this instant response when it comes to attraction. Dopamine, endorphins, serotonin, and so on, that is connected with attraction. They did the same thing with the group of women. So they put a lot of really handsome men, at pictures where women were looking at. It didn't make much of a difference. They got like a small enhanced release of dopamine, just indicating a small interest towards the man, not much more. So when we looked into that factor of what actually triggers women in terms of attraction, neuroscientifically, then there's another study from Harvard University where they saw that when women were talking about themselves and what they think about things in depth, that is when all those neurotransmitters actually was triggered. So what is the conclusion I found here basically was that if we can make the women talk, not only on the surface level, but in depth, that is when we actually make a true influence in the conversation itself. And that is when I came in and used a lot of empathy in conversations to really enhance the results. So, for example, when I work with James Tusk and Troy Francis, and as some of you mentioned before, that they were really into making these mass approaches. They just wanted to go and do stacked routines and approach heaps of women. And they got like maybe one date of 40 or something like that. Once we started to implement empathy in the initial conversations, I mean, we're talking about one date every fifth girl or one date every sixth girl. So it drastically changed. So what I noticed is if we can make the women talk in depth, that is when the whole game changed. That is what I saw in it. And a lot of these areas involves listening skills. I think most guys in general don't possess the listening skills required to really make an influence. Empathetic listening skills, basically.
I'll be the first to admit that I'm a very bad listener, naturally. I tried to get better. Like back in high school, I was like, what the fuck's going on? Can you repeat the instructions? And then get roasted by the fucking teacher for that. Anyway, let me just acknowledge another joiner. Ross Jeffries is in the house, so calling in from San Diego. I will tell you guys right now. Go ahead if you want to introduce yourself. In.
I just want to compliment. I didn't get that young human's name, but he's absolutely correct. And I think the foundation for empathy and empathic listening is genuine curiosity, not just about women, but about life and people in general. If you're not genuinely curious and you don't have the depth and the intelligence to be genuinely curious, then you can't evoke the responses that are going to have women talking in the directions that will make them open up to you. And so I think developing genuine curiosity, not in a way that's interrogation, but learning to do it in an easy flowing conversational style is one of the foundations of those listening skills. And the other thing is if you're noisy in your own mind and if you're constantly thinking, is this working? What is the other person think about me? There's only so much consciousness, real estate in consciousness. So learning to quiet your mind is another base skill, a foundational skill for that. That's why I meditate. That's why I teach my VIPs to meditate. I don't mean bong, gong, schmong, long, schlong. I mean quieting the mind, noticing what's going on. So I want to compliment you. And I'm impressed that you had that degree, that you've studied neuroscience. In fact, I'm always looking for interesting guests for my podcast, The Influencer's Edge. It has nothing to do with pickup. I would like to invite you to communicate with me about being a guest on my podcast.
Yeah.
All right, that would be an honor to join that.